The hurricane did not just destroy homes, it erased routines, it fractured communities, it pushed thousands of Jamaicans into a kind of uncertainty that does not show up in damage reports. And now, in the middle of that disruption, the government is offering a solution that has divided opinion across the island. Container homes, steel boxes, delivered fast, installed quickly, meant to restore dignity to families who lost everything within hours on October 28, 2025. But here is the question many people are asking quietly, and others are arguing loudly. Is this a lifeline or a shortcut that could haunt Jamaica later? Hurricane Melissa forced Jamaica into a moment it had never faced before. Not just another storm, but a scale of destruction that overwhelmed traditional rebuilding systems. Roads were blocked, construction materials were scarce, labor was stretched thin, and tens of thousands of people needed housing. Not in 6 months, not next year. That urgency is where container housing enters the story. For families living with relatives, guarding, or living in damaged property, the promise of a private, lockable space with a roof, electricity, and running water is not abstract. It is deeply personal. It is the difference between surviving and beginning to recover. But speed has consequences, and Jamaica has learned, often painfully, that fast solutions can create long shadows. Here is the part that often gets lost in the debate. Container homes are not new. They are not experimental. They are not a wild idea invented in a crisis. They have been used across the world, sometimes successfully, sometimes disastrously. And the difference between success and failure has very little to do with the container itself. It has everything to do with how decisions are made under pressure. It is important to pause and reset expectations. Container housing is not meant to replace traditional homes. It is not meant to redefine Jamaican architecture. It is meant to buy time. And buying time after a disaster can save lives. In countries that treated container housing as a temporary bridge, not a permanent destination, the results were surprisingly positive. Families regained privacy. Children returned to routines. Communities stabilized while long-term rebuilding took shape. Where governments treated containers as disposable or permanent without planning, the results were harsh. Overheated interiors, poor maintenance. Entire communities are locked into substandard living conditions. That is the fork in the road Jamaica is now approaching. What makes this moment different is not just the storm. It is the scale of displacement, combined with the fragility of the construction pipeline. Traditional concrete homes take time, materials, and skilled labor. After Melissa, debris clogged roads, ports were under strain, and basic supplies were limited. In that environment, insisting on only one housing solution would have left thousands exposed for months. Container homes, for all their controversy, offered something rare in disaster recovery: predictability. They could be built off-site. They could be delivered in batches. Costs were known up front. And most importantly, they could be installed while the rest of the country was still clearing fallen trees and damaged roads. But there is a risk hiding beneath that efficiency. A container does not forgive poor planning. If placed in flood-prone areas, it becomes a trap. If insulated poorly, it becomes unbearable. If maintenance is ignored, rust and corrosion accelerate fast in Jamaica's coastal air. And if temporary housing quietly becomes permanent, without upgrades or oversight, It creates exactly the kind of vulnerability the country is trying to escape. This is where the debate becomes less about steel and more about governance. The real question is not whether container homes are good or bad. The real question is whether Jamaica treats this moment as an emergency response or a quiet reset of housing standards. There is a temptation after disasters to normalize survival, to accept good enough, because people are grateful to have anything at all. But history shows that recovery decisions made quickly and emotionally often last longer than intended. Here's another uncomfortable truth. Disasters do not affect everyone equally. The elderly, the poor, and socially vulnerable groups often suffer the longest. For them, a fast private housing solution can be the difference between stability and prolonged displacement. In that sense, container homes can be an act of compassion. Yet compassion without planning turns into neglect. Success here does not mean delivering thousands of units quickly and moving on. Success means asking hard questions while people are still paying attention. How long will these units be used? Who maintains them? What happens when they age? Are they placed in ways that allow families to rebuild permanent homes alongside them, they quietly becoming the endpoint? The danger is not the container. The danger is forgetting that people live inside them. If Jamaica gets this right, container housing can act as a pressure valve. It can reduce overcrowded shelters, stabilize families, and give breathing room for long-term rebuilding that is stronger, safer, and more resilient. If Jamaica gets it wrong, it risks repeating a familiar cycle: emergency housing that slowly becomes permanent hardship. That brings us here. Container homes are not the story. Jamaica's choices are. This moment will be remembered not for the steel boxes that arrived after the storm, but for whether leaders, institutions, and communities treated them as a bridge or a destination, whether speed was balanced with dignity, whether urgency silenced accountability or sharpened it. Here are 4 bonus facts that deepen this conversation. First, container housing often costs far less than traditional construction up front, but poor maintenance can erase those savings within a decade. Second, families recover psychologically more quickly when they have private space, even if the home is temporary. Third, countries that clearly define an exit plan for temporary housing avoid long-term slum development. And fourth, the strongest recovery systems pair emergency housing with strict timelines and visible pathways to permanent rebuilding. So, is this a smart fix or a risky gamble? The answer depends on what Jamaica does next. If this conversation matters to you, subscribe to this channel, Impacting Jamaica. These are the choices shaping Jamaica's future, and they deserve attention, not silence.